This house right here was built about 1830 for merchant Joseph Trotter, and it was purchased in 1838 by John J. McMahon, a Virginia-born cotton factor who divided his time between Courtland and New Orleans. The house remained the home of the McMahon's descendants for nearly 150 years. John McMahon's wife, Harriet, was a daughter of Dr. John Shackelford, who in 1836 organized a military company, the Courtland Red Rovers, to fight for the Texas independence. Donated by the family to the Alabama Historical Commission in 1987, the house was privately restored under protective covenant. The McMahon House is a notable example of the federal protected architecture brought to this area by early settlers from the Atlantic seaboard. So this is the McMahon House that was occupied by multiple generations of the McMahon family. I wonder if Vince McMahon, famous promoter of WWE, is kin to these people. You never know. Let's go. Good morning, everyone. This is P9 with another vlog, and I am here in the town of Courtland, Alabama. And I'm standing right here in front of the town hall for Courtland. So here's Courtland's town hall, and we're going to explore the small town of Courtland. Now, Courtland was originally inhabited by a Cherokee tribe, and it was named after a small creek named Big Nance, which was named after a Cherokee chief. So the current town of Courtland is on the site of a Native American village, and it began as a small settlement known as Ebenezer in the 1800s, but settled by wealthy planters across the South. So the Courtland Land Company bought land on this town in which it was founded and subdivided into lots. So Courtland was officially incorporated in 1819 by the Alabama legislature. So we're going to take a stroll into Courtland. This is downtown that we are in right now. So we just left City Hall. So it is a little after 7:30 on this Friday morning. So this building right here was once the Courtland Pharmacy, an old drugstore. They also had Foremost Ice Cream, and their motto was, "We fill prescriptions, sick room supplies, fountain service, and sundries." Okay. So we're seeing some old vintage buildings already. So this is the Courtland Historic District where I'm at right now. So again, we see some vintage buildings. This is the A.F. Redmond building that was built in 1906. So there's some antique shops over here. You can see the town of Courtland clock right over here. But yeah, these are some antique shops right over here. Looks like one of them is closed. They don't open until 10 a.m. It's called Mrs. James. And this looks like an abandoned restaurant right here. Looks like it says Sherrod on there. But yeah, this is like Main Street right over here. This is a food bank, Foster Outreach Ministry. So we're gonna check out the park over here. And check this out. Looks like they're already in the fall spirit. They have the pumpkins right here with the hay. Already in the fall Halloween spirit. Storybrook Market. And here's more information on the town of Courtland. It says federal lands in this area were first sold in 1818 and quickly purchased by settlers and speculators. A group of investors calling themselves the Courtland Land Company and consisting of William Whitaker, James Camp, William Broadnax, John Tifford, Benjamin Thomas, and Bernard McKiernan acquired the future town site and had it laid off in a gridiron street pattern containing 300 lots. These were immediately put up for sale in hopes that Courtland will become the county seat. The present square was set aside for a courthouse. Alabama's territorial legislature incorporated Courtland on December 13th, 1819. So this is also around the same time that Alabama entered the Union as a state. So Alabama achieved statehood the same year that Courtland was incorporated. And here's just some information about the early settlers. Major Lewis Dillahunty and his wife Lucinda reportedly settled at Courtland in 1816. Dillahunty, a surveyor, had fought with Andrew Jackson at New Orleans. Soon afterward came wealthy planters with their families and slaves from Virginia, Tennessee, and the Carolinas and Georgia. They were joined by merchants, artisans, lawyers, doctors, preachers, and innkeepers as Courtland became the trade center for the surrounding farms and plantations. A newspaper, the Courtland Herald, was established in the 1820s. For most of its history, Courtland's population has numbered between 400 and 700 people. Wow. So it's always been a very small town. Always been a very small town here in northern Alabama, not far from Decatur and Huntsville. And of course you have your fountain right here. So it's actually a nice little city park. Nice little city park. We have the gazebo over here, also with the patch of hay over there. Or the bale of hay, I should say, correction, bale of hay. And it sits in front of that gazebo. And you also have some information about the Red Rovers, who are a volunteer military company organized at Courtland 1835 to aid Texas in the struggle for independence, commanded by Dr. Jack Shackelford. Local physician company derived its name from color of homespun uniforms made by citizens of Courtland. In first battle, Rovers were assigned to Regiment Cutoff, captured at Colita, March 20, 1836, and surrendered on promise to return to U.S. On March 27, company and others, 365 men executed at Goliad by order of General Santa Anna. Shackelford and 7 other Rovers spared, and he later escaped and returned to the Courtland and Goliad incident, plus Alamo rallied U.S. support and guaranteed freedom for Texas. Oh wow. So I had no idea Courtland actually played a part in Texas's fight for independence. So you got a few more buildings over here before we get over to the rail station. This is actually the Courtland Police Department building. So it's a marker. This is the marker about the cotton industry right here. Cotton Kingdom, a combination of rich soil, mild climate, and ready access to market via river and later railroad, made Courtland an early center of cotton production. from surrounding plantations with colorful names like Bonnie Doon, Oak Grove, Caledonia, Rocky Hill, Albemarle, Hard Bargain, Pond Spring, Dixie, Summerwood, Egypt, Flower Hill, and Ingleside. Thousands of bales were annually shipped to Memphis and New Orleans during the 19th and early 20th century. Though production methods have changed, cotton is still an important part of the local economy. The value of cotton to the economy of Lawrence County exceeds $81 million in 1992. So that just touches on the cotton industry here in Courtland. And yeah, you know, and then, you know, this was a major producer of cotton, and they shipped a lot of that over to New Orleans and Memphis, as mentioned on the marker, via railroad. And this is the front of the Courtland Police Department. This plaque right here is in memory of Fred Douglas Young, who served 46 years on the police department here in Courtland. So shout out to Fred Douglas Young. It's good that they honored him right here in front of the police department. So I'm gonna go back over here to this park. And this building right here is Courtland Lodge number 37. So they have a lodge building right there. You have a water tower over there as well. So that's a Courtland depot right there. I'm gonna get there in just a second. But check this out though. Here's some information about the African American experience here in Courtland. African Americans played a very significant role in the early history of Courtland. Most came as slaves from the older southern states to help clear the land, to plant crops of cotton and corn, and to serve as household domestics. President Thomas Jefferson's great-grandson, William S. Bankhead, bought his personal servant and valet, Jupiter, from Monticello when he settled near Courtland in the 1840s. Skilled slave craftsmen also assisted in constructing many Courtland buildings before the Civil War. After emancipation, most African Americans earned their livelihood as tenants and small farmers. There's more over here on the back. Before being officially denied political participation by the state constitution of 1901, Courtland's African American community produced the most successful local Republican Party organization in North Alabama, on occasion uniting with area whites to create a biracial government. H.H. Stewart, a graduate of Williams College in Massachusetts, was outstanding educational and political leader of the Courtland black community during this period. In early 20th century, many Courtland area African Americans migrated to the North and Upper Midwest to seek greater economic and social opportunities. So shout out to the Courtland African Americans from the early days of its establishment. And yeah, so much like the 1920s and the 30s, the Great Migration, Courtland was part of that as well, as far as blacks making exodus up north into the Midwest for greater economic opportunities. So you have the Tennessee Valley Bank building right here. And it's also a Courtland Heritage Museum over here. And there's a vacant lot. They have the glass partitions right here, but it's a vacant lot over here full of kudzu. An abandoned building right here. It looks like this used to be a garage, possibly. Look, they got the Coca-Cola 5-cent drink right here. Hughes Antiques, another antique shop over here. Shout out to Sergeant Lester Burt Hughes, Korean War combat engineer. Salute to him. Check this out. They got some photographs of some black, they got a black wedding right here. And they have like some black families right here as well. Right here in the front of Hughes Antiques. This is really dope. They have an ice cream shop too called Scoops Ice Cream Shop. And this is a Hughes Drug Store. The entrance is this way, the Hughes Drug Store. The Lila's Corner, Gigi's Country Store. Wow. Headed to New Heights. Commissioned by Lockheed Martin. So one of this has to do with Courtland's close proximity to Huntsville, aka Space City, Rocket City rather. And this is by Jesse Andrews, this mural. So shout out to Jesse Andrews for this Headed to New Heights mural that was commissioned by Lockheed Martin. And you even have the Courtland Baptist Church over here at the corner of Tennessee and Jackson Street. I also have this nice two-story little home over there, right there. Courtland Baptist Church. But let's get on to the rail depot, shall we, and get some of this rail history over here by Courtland's old railroad depot. But before we get over there, I just wanted to highlight this American Legion Post 58. And this was where on April 20th, 1934, a temporary charter was issued for General Joe Wheeler Post 58 here in Courtland, Alabama. On November 12th, 1946, a permanent charter was granted and the name changed to Wiley Horton Post 58 in honor of the deceased son of State Department Commander C.C. Horton. And you can see they have these little tanks right here. And the American Legion is the largest veterans organization in the U.S. It seeks to advance the aims and interests of all veterans. The Legion has 16,000 local posts. Each year, the American Legion sponsors over 3,000 baseball and other athletic teams, 3,600 Boy Scout troops, also national high school oratory contests to promote the study of the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights. So shout out to the American Legion organization. And again, this is post 58. And on to one of the South's first railroads. So just to give you guys some insight into the railroad history of Courtland. The site of South's earliest railroads, Tuscumbia, Courtland, and Decatur Railroad, organized here in 1831 and was chartered the following year. But here is some information right here, one of the South's first railroads, and we're going to also take a little glance over there to the depot. Was seeking means to ship cotton and other goods around the treacherous Muscle Shoals of the Tennessee River, area planters and merchants met at Courtland in 1831 to consider a rail line. On January 13th, 1832, the 50-mile-long Tuscumbia, Courtland, and Decatur Railroad was chartered. Early trains were usually horse-drawn, although an English-made steam locomotive was acquired in 1834. Absorbed by the Memphis and Charleston line after 1850, the railway was largely destroyed during the Civil War. The rebuilt railroad became part of the Southern system in 1898. So, you know, a lot of these rail companies, as mentioned, a lot of these railroads were destroyed during the Civil War in the midst of battle. But Tennessee Street along the north side of the square was originally part of the Gaines Trace, a horse path laid out in 1807 under the direction of Captain Edmund Pendleton Gaines of the U.S. Army. From Melton's Bluff on the Tennessee River, the trace ran westward to Cotton Gin Port on the Tombigbee in present-day Mississippi. Another important early thoroughfare was the Byler Road, which linked and ran southward through Courtland and linked the Tennessee Valley to Tuscaloosa and Lower Alabama. So the Tuscumbia, Courtland, and Decatur Railroad, as mentioned before, was organized in 1831. You know, so over the years, you know, it was absorbed by Memphis and Charleston Railroad and ultimately absorbed by the Southern Railway. So these railroad companies oftentimes switched hands. You know, there's tons of railroad companies across America, and oftentimes they will switch hands, you know, get absorbed by other, you know, railroad companies and so on and so forth. And this is the railroad depot right here. As you can see. They have some ceiling fans and some tables out here. They even have a barbecue grill over here. So it looks like this railroad depot now serves kind of like as like a community center, so to speak. It's like a place where they have like events and stuff like that. But yeah, this was the Courtland original signage for the rail depot back in the day. They even have the Southeastern Express signage right here. So it's real cool that they preserve all of the historical artifacts associated with this historical building. Find that to be very dope. But yeah, guys, just wanted to come over here and check out this historic rail station. You know, I'm a huge rail fan, so I love to go visit different depots and rail stations, and I look forward to bringing more videos that showcase those particular landmarks. Here's some information on this marker right here. It looks pretty beat up. It talks about Courtland's early architecture for the period of 1820 to 1940, so a 120-year period. Talks about the different forms of architecture. Structures within the Courtland Historic District represent over 150 years of changing taste in building design. Although only a few of Courtland's earliest buildings survive, The federal style architecture of the oldest houses suggests that community's strong original links with Virginia and other states of the Upper South. Typical early residents of frame and brick feature a gable roof with tall chimneys at each end. Sometimes weatherboarding conceals log walls underneath many buildings, and many buildings dating from the 1850s through the 1930s reflect Italianate, Victorian, and neoclassical architectural influences. There are also early 20th century bungalows, some built of native sandstone. Courtland still counts about 20 buildings predating the Civil War. So a lot of buildings and pre-Civil War, aka antebellum. And during the early 1800s, an assortment of wooden, brick, and log business structures surrounded the town square. Most of the old buildings on the square today date from the late 1800s and early 1900s. The fronts of some of them feature characteristic Victorian detailing. At the northeast corner of the square are 4 19th century stone mountain blocks placed for the convenience of horseback riders. The tall red cedar seen throughout Courtland and along the streets radiating from the square have been a feature of landscape since early days. So again, as you can see, a lot of these structures still represent the early architectural styles of Courtland here in Courtland, Alabama. Over here on Alabama Street here in Courtland, and this looks like this used to be a barbecue spot over here on this site called C&S Barbecue. Looks like it used to be a barbecue spot over here, but apparently it's vacant lot. But let's continue down Alabama Street. They have a bank. They would call Bank Independent right over here across the street. And also they have the U.S. Postal Service building, small post office. So I forgot to mention that earlier in the video, the population of Courtland currently is roughly 800 residents. So again, very small town, but a lot of history. We have angel wings over Courtland. We have this mural, Angel Wings over Courtland. And this mural was done by Joel Hill in November of 2021. So shout out to Joel Hill for this nice art piece of Angel Wings over Courtland. And this is in love and memory of Lisa Pace, creator of Wings over Courtland. So RIP to Lisa Pace. Really nice dedication. So Wings over Courtland, I wonder what that is. I wonder if that's like some type of organization, like some type of charitable organization. It sounds like that's what that possibly could be. But nevertheless, nice dedication. Nice dedication piece in form of a mural. And they also have the fire station in the same, basically the fire station and the police department all in the same station. So shout out to the first responders, Courtland Fire Rescue is over there. Shout out to the police department as well. I wonder what this building is right here. Looks like either an office building or a residential building, not quite sure. But it sits right here in downtown Courtland. And that brings me to the end of the downtown portion of Courtland. And we got one more segment of the video and then we will conclude. All right, guys, I'm going into North Courtland, Alabama, which is a separate municipality from Courtland. Now, North Courtland is located in Lawrence County as well. And it is one of two majority black populated municipalities in Lawrence County, along with Hillsboro. So you have North Courtland Municipal Complex over there. You have some trailers on the side of the road over there as well. Here's some of the here's the main drag through North Courtland. So it has a population of a little over 600. It's not obviously not a big town by any stretch. This is the community park right here. I don't know if you guys can really see it. But yeah, this is the community park. So a few trailers, few houses out in this area. Standing here at the corner of Davis Street and Jesse Jackson Parkway is this location right over here, which used to be the Frank and Annie Lee Davis House and School. Now, local farmer Frank Davis and his wife Annie Lee offered their house as a classroom space for African American students after a devastating fire destroyed the North Alabama Baptist Academy building in 1928. Located in a part of town once known as the Hill, the house was used as a school until the late 1940s when Principal Richard A. Hubbard, with community assistance, purchased nearby land and decommissioned Army barracks from the airfield in Courtland to house the school. The Davis family allowed students at the school, known then as Courtland Colored High School, to grow vegetables and raise chickens on the property as part of Tuskegee Institute's New Farmers of America program, and continued to board teachers in their home until the early 1970s. The Davis family's support for education in the African American community in North Courtland and the surrounding area cannot be understated. Many graduates of the school achieved degrees in higher education and careers in education, industry, or military service. Through their personal sacrifice and financial support, the Davis family helped the community overcome systemic inequality and segregation to ensure educational opportunities for the children of North Courtland. So shout out to the Davis family, Frank and Annie Lee Davis, for their house and school to help enrich the lives of African American students during a time where educational opportunities were very limited. So therefore, this brings me to the end of this Courtland/North Courtland vlog. I'd like to thank everybody who took the time to watch this vlog. Also, make sure you hit the like button. And for those that are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the notification bell. And once you hit the notification bell, make sure you select all. That way you get notified each and every time I drop a new vlog. With that in mind, good people, thanks for tuning in. See you on the next one. Peace.